everybody. My name is Proceeds, known online as Wootini, here with another one of my gay gamer video podcasts. This week, I don't actually have a movie review. I went to the movies. I went yesterday to see Oppenheimer at AMC, and they scanned my ticket on my phone, and she was like, "What time is your movie?" And I was like, 2:30. She's like, "Okay, there you go, theater one." It was like 2:35. And so I scurried into the theater to take my seat, which was already taken. There was a whole row of people, and there was a guy who was like, "Check your ticket." And I'm like, "Row E, this is E, isn't it? E11. And he's like, "Oh, that's you." And this guy was like, "E11, I'm E11. And I'm like, holding up my phone to show that I also have E11. And I'm like, God dang it. Of course, something like this, it's going to get screwed up because this movie is like sold out for weeks. And if I can't see it here, I don't know when I'm going to see it. And then I notice on my phone, it says E11, and then it says Sunday, July 23rd. So I'm like, fuck me. So I was like, great. So I double back, and I go out to the girl who scanned my ticket. I was like, "Hey, I was just here, and it turns out there's somebody in my seat because it turns out my movie is actually tomorrow at 2:30, not today. So you already scanned this. Can this be scanned again tomorrow?" And she was like, "No, you can't scan that again. You have to go downstairs and talk to somebody." And I was like, so I go downstairs, and there was an employee who I wasn't sure was an employee because she was decked out in all this Barbie gear. So I'm like, "Do you work for AMC or Barbie, or are you a fan?" Because there was a lot of pink in that theater. So she's like, "Can I help you?" And I was like, "Yes." And I explained the situation, and she was like, "So wait, did you want to see it today?" And I was like, "No, I'm sure it's sold out." She's like, "Yes, it's totally sold out." And I was like, "Yeah, no, I just want to be able to see it with the ticket that I bought tomorrow." But she said that you can't scan this again. And she's like, no, hang on. And she went up to one of the ticket machines and did something and like scanned my phone. And it was like, "Oh, we see that you have tickets for an upcoming screening. Do you want to print them out now?" And she said yes. And so now I have, oh no, where are they? There it is. I have a physical movie ticket for the first time in years. I can't remember the last time I had an actual paper movie ticket that they're going to have to tear. That's insane. So, in theory, I will be seeing Oppenheimer this afternoon after I finish this and edit it and upload it. By the time you watch this, I will be seeing Oppenheimer, or I will have seen Oppenheimer, depending on when you watch this. So I'll talk about that next episode. And maybe Barbie, if I can get into Barbie, because Barbie is also selling out left, right, and center, and they need to add more screens, please, because the ones that they have already for next weekend are sold out, basically. So, that's it. And as for games, I've been playing a lot of Gotham Knights past week, because, I feel like I'm nearing the end. I mentioned this last episode. So I decided I wanted to focus on the villain side quests and get those out of the way. And Harley was fine. Harley was a typical boss fight. It was a lot of like working your way through the hospital to get to her. And then it was just, watch her attacks, dodge them, take advantage of the time to attack yourself, and then do some more dodging, and then attacking, and then dodging and attacking. It was fine. Minding the explosive crap ringing around the edge of the room. You don't run into that. But push the villains into it, and then they blow up too. Then I did Mr. Freeze, who was a pain in the ass before, but now this time he has a freaking mech, which was like, are you kidding me with this? Get the fuck out of here. And he still has his like freeze beam that like I can't seem to dodge or run away from or escape, and it keeps freezing me in place. And he was doing so much damage to me, and I was just like, damn it. So after failing a little, I went online and I was like, how do you avoid this freeze beam? Because it's really irritating. There has to be a way. Because it's really poor game design when the boss has an attack that you can't avoid in any way, shape, or form. Like, that's just rude. So they're like, when he uses the freeze beam, avoid it by using the grappling points. And I was like, the what now? And I was like, there's grappling points here. And sure enough, there's some of the ice spikes you can get up on top of. And I was like, well, that made that so much easier. And then it was fine. Because also once you're up above, you can attack from above and go and do the whatever they call it, attack. But the air attack kind of thing. And it was much easier. And then I defeated Mr. Freeze. And then I could move on to Clayface. And Clayface was, again, perfectly simple boss fight. He has his attacks. You dodge them. You attack when you can. Distance attacks with the batarang were really helpful. But then when you get him down to half health, he smashes through the floor and then chases you to the next location. And this was the most irritating thing. The bat cycle appears, you jump on the bat cycle, and you basically have to ride the bat cycle through these sewer tunnels, and you can't slow down or he'll catch up to you and kill you. Because there's like a wave of clay coming behind you. And then you can't slow down for a hot second. And you have to avoid all of his attacks because there's spikes and stuff coming through the tunnel walls and the ceiling and the floor and everything. So you have to it's just a freaking arcade racer thing where you're avoiding all of the obstacles. And I hate that kind of shit. I've never liked that. That's why I don't like platformers. Because back in the day, everyone's like, oh, Mario and Sonic. And I'm just like, no. Because you're running along and then you fail, you mess up, and you die, and you have to start all the way at the beginning and do the same thing again and try not to die at the same point. And you get through that, and then you get a little bit further, and then you die there. And you have to do the whole thing all over again from the beginning, and it's like really annoying. And there were no checkpoints, and it was really pissing me off. So eventually, I did finally, because if you hit more than a few obstacles, you're dead. And I just kept dying. And then it was so dark at one point, and I'm like, what just killed me? It's so dark I couldn't even see what killed me. So I was getting really aggravated with that, and I was like, I might have to give up on this Clayface mission. But then I got through, and then it was just another fight with Clayface, which was fine. It was a little aggressive. He got really, really aggressive, so it was hard to dodge all of his attacks because he was in your face the whole time. And it got really, really tight at the very end. I had him down to like a sliver of health, and then he killed me. But thankfully, I had unlocked Batgirl's second wind ability, so I could revive myself with a little bit of health and then just fight him a little bit more, and I was able to defeat him, so it was fine. So that was good. And then I was like, okay, there's really nothing else left to do aside from like the random crimes and the premeditated crimes, and all those are good for is like upgrading, like getting materials and blueprints to upgrade your weapons and armor. So I'm like, I don't need to. I've got pretty good weapons and armor, so let's just go ahead and see the main storyline through. And so I basically, I was like, all right, what's next? And you go to Arkham Asylum, and there's some back and forth in there, and then that is the reveal that Talia has used Kirk Langstrom's research to make some very, very, very violent man-bats. And then you have to like go around Gotham and defeat 3 different man-bats at 3 different locations, which wouldn't have been so bad. They're hard enough to defeat on their own, but then while you're working on them, the stupid ninja assassins show up, and they suck because you can't fight them. It's hard to fight them because as you're fighting them, they freaking disappear in a cloud of smoke and then reappear behind you and attack you, and it's really irritating. So I hate them a lot. So I would go through so many health packs that like I would finally defeat the Man-Bat and the assassins, and then it was like I had like 2 health packs left, and I said, well, fuck this. And I go back to the Belfry, restock, do another night with another Man-Bat, go back, and then do the 3rd one, and then we're done. Then that was it. And then it was like, okay, now go here to see what Talia's up to. And I went there, and it became this really long, drawn out mission. And I was like, this almost feels like it could be the final mission. And it was. So you get to the final location, and then there's a storyline twist I won't spoil, but which I saw coming. And then you do your fight with Talia. Then there's another story twist. Then you fight Talia again, where it's more annoying and she's more difficult. And then once you've defeated her again, then there's cutscenes, and you're done. And I have to say I was actually pleased that I'd leveled up enough that Batgirl was able to stay in the fight. I didn't even die this time. Clayface was more difficult than Talia, so I was like, yay. But then after that, then that was the end of the game, and they're like, ta-da, you've saved Gotham for now, sort of. It's still a mess, but whatever. And then the credits rolled, and then it was like, luckily I did this just before dinner, so like I was able to like, we sat down to eat dinner, and instead of watching TV, we had to watch the credits roll first, because I just want to make sure that it was all definitely over. And the credits were cute because I started to notice, like, they're like scenes from the game. Like, it's like a frozen moment from a scene in the game, one of the missions, and then like the camera just sort of moves through the scene a little. And I'm watching it, and I'm like, okay, yeah. And I'm like, wait, that almost looks like the costume I was wearing as Batgirl when I was doing the scene in this mission. And then it switched to Nightwing, and I'm like, okay, that was where I switched to Nightwing for that mission. And then it went back to Batgirl, then it went back to Nightwing for another mission, and then back to Batgirl for the whole rest of the game. And I realized it was showing me scenes from the main story missions as the character in the costume that I was wearing at the time. And I was like, that's really cute. So if I had switched between the four characters more, there would have been a lot more variety, and it all would have been very accurate and correct. And I was like, that's a good idea. I like that. That's cute. A little recap. And then it just puts you back out into Gotham City, and you're like, okay, now keep playing. But I don't know if I will. There are some side things left to do. I feel like there's some trophies I could probably get, but I don't know if I really care enough to do it. It was a good game. I will say that I did enjoy Gotham Knights. The reviews were not always kind. There were a lot of reviews that were like, no, this is not good. And no, it is not as good as the Batman Arkham games, which are like awesome. But it was a good attempt to create something like that, but without a lot of Batman in it. I appreciated that they didn't make you switch between the four characters, because I took to Batgirl and I enjoyed her and I learned her skills, and I was like, I can play as Batgirl. I don't want to have to like relearn skills every time. So I liked that they didn't say you have to play as Robin for this mission, because then you would have to learn Robin's skills and everything, and it's annoying to have to do that every time. So I appreciated that they did that. I didn't really take advantage of the whole like you could also play with a second person and another controller where they play as Robin while you're playing Batgirl or Nightwing or whatever. You can play as two different characters, and they would help you defeat the bad guys. I'm like, I never did that because I always play solo. But the story was good. I did like the story. Graphics were good. The gameplay was fine. Combat gets a little repetitive, but you know, there's enough of the skills and stuff that you can kind of mix it up a little. I do feel that the main story missions are good. The villain side quests are also good, but then it's when you're doing the other stuff, the miscellaneous crimes and the challenges and that sort of thing, it's like that becomes very repetitive. It's always just randomly generated, very repetitive crimes that you're stopping. And I stopped doing those because those were only when required. There was like one point where you had to interrogate a bunch of villains to find out what was what they were up to advance the plot. So then I would do that. Otherwise I would just avoid those because they were repetitive and annoying. So I don't feel like I want to go back there, because also like all you get from them is like maybe a blueprint for some new weapons or armor, and I'm like, I don't need that. I'm good. So it wasn't super well balanced as far as like I never felt like I wanted to explore Gotham and really look around and discover secrets and fun things at all. A lot of Gotham felt randomly generated. It's just a bunch of randomly generated crimes. So I never really wanted to explore like you do in some open world games, like the Assassin's Creed games, where you're like, oh, what's over there? Let me go look over there and see what's on that hill or whatever, what's that building over there, It wasn't like that. So it never really felt like the open world game that you want to explore the open world. But overall, I liked it. I paid like $23 for it, I think. So I definitely got my $23 worth out of it. So if you can get it on discount and you want to play it, get it on discount for like $20, and you'll enjoy it. I enjoyed it. It was good. It wasn't great. I would have probably not liked it very much if I had paid $70 for it when it first came out. But for $20, it was good. So come back next episode, and I'll have started something new. I've mentioned my plans in previous episodes for what I want to play next. So come back next episode and see if I stuck to that plan or if I'm just winging it and I'm playing something else entirely. And if I was able to see Oppenheimer or not. Bye!